Joining me on the podcast today is someone I'm incredibly proud to introduce to you all, Maliha, known to most as the marathon runner. But there is so much more to her and a story of how she became one. In this episode, we hear for the first time the adversity she had to overcome to even step foot on that start line. She was subjected to parental abduction at such a young age and rescued by her mother. She and her siblings moved with her mother from the Middle East to England for a new beginning and to support her mother's condition affecting her sight. Later, Maliha would be diagnosed with the same condition. Maliha's outlook on life is an incredibly powerful one. Her past is what makes her ambitions even stronger. With her heart set on representing the Middle East, it's not a case of if, but when. Guys, I'm incredibly proud to say that my first book, Fortune Favours the Brave, published by Penguin, is now in stores to purchase, or you can order your copy online. The book consists of 76 short lessons on finding strength in vulnerability. Adversity is something you will inevitably face in life. I wrote this book to share and showcase how to process that and what can come from it. Adversity is something we wish would never happen to us, but it does. I want you to understand, though, that it can inspire you to achieve incredible things, not just for yourself, but for others too. Everyone on this earth is born amazing at something. It is just a case of finding out what that is. Life is incredibly short and valuable, so make it count. You may find that you don't believe in your ability or fearful to test yourself. By the end of this book, I believe you will. To get yourself a copy now, it can be purchased at Waterstones, Amazon, or by simply clicking the link on my Instagram bio, Joshua Patterson _JP now.
I'm so excited to be welcoming, I think, one of the most unique and exciting individuals in the sport of running right now. And just before we actually started recording, she very kindly was educating me on to pronounce her name right now. And I'm going to say it, and hopefully from her reaction, I'm going to get it right. Maliha.
Yes, that's
yes.
correct.
How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. Do you know what? You're excited for every single guest that comes onto this podcast. But when we spoke and just hearing so much more about yourself and so many things that people don't know about you, your story's phenomenal. And I feel incredibly honored and humbled that you would come onto this podcast and share it, because it's unbelievably precious, I think, your story.
Mm-hmm.
And actually to have the trust to share that with someone, I think it's special.
Yeah, I agree. This is the first time I'm speaking about this publicly, so I am quite nervous. There's a lot of things that I would like to share with you, but I'm excited. I want people to see that side of me and not just a runner, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And do you know what? If we're going to be really truthful, I find when it comes to maybe cultural topics,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's like an English thing or whether this is just individual to me, that when you don't know something, there's just like this anxiousness about it where rather than maybe just asking the honest question, the anxiety probably is just around offending the individual or maybe asking the incorrect thing or pronouncing something incorrectly too. And just, with yourself, there's so much I feel like I can learn. You're bringing something completely fresh to the sport with your ambitions.
Yeah.
And, as much as I'm excited for you to share your story, like I said, I feel like there's so many questions I have and I can learn from you.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of as an individual, I think one of the major defining factors about yourself is the hijab.
Yes, yeah.
Firstly, have I pronounced that
Yes,
right?
you
Well,
did.
we're off to a flying start. I've said
You
your
did.
name and that correctly. That is something, I'll be completely truthful, I know absolutely nothing about. So could you
Yeah.
kind of explain to me the meaning behind it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a symbol of modesty and faith towards God. I think a lot of people think that women have to wear it for the men, like for their husband, but it's not. It's between you and God. It's just a journey that you are on with God. But it's so much more than like just a scarf. It's who you become. You have to treat people a certain way. It is so much more. And I'm learning myself, because even though I was born Muslim, I still have a lot to learn. I just put the hijab on 7 months ago, and it's a journey. So yeah, there's so much to learn myself.
So it's not something that you necessarily, the minute you're born, it's
Hmm.
it's it's something that I guess family would I guess present to you as an option. It's something that I guess you can choose yourself. Is that right, or is that something that would
Yeah.
normally come from your parents?
I don't know how to say this. I don't know if I want to say that, but you do start wearing it at a certain time when you get to a certain age as a female. And for me, my I grew up in Saudi, and my mom wore the niqab when she converted to Islam. So it wasn't a big deal to me with putting it on necessarily. It was a big deal because I felt like it would probably limit me from like career goals and so on. But yeah, you have to be a certain age to start wearing the hijab. Um, but there's so much more to it. If I'm being honest, like, there's so much more to it.
I think one of the major questions when wearing that, especially with running, that I would like to know is that when I'm running myself,
Hmm.
if I even wear like a cap, which I will frequently,
Hmm.
for me it's almost sometimes it's like an insulator, right?
Yeah.
It's so hot.
Yeah.
How do you find it when you run? Will it just really come down to, I guess, the material that you are
Hmm.
wearing?
Those are the things that I was thinking about before I decided. I was thinking about wearing the hijab for such a long time, and I just kept pushing it back. Just, I felt like, is this gonna stop me from being an athlete, at the level that I want to train at? And the reason why I say that is exactly what you said. I knew that it would come with sacrifices, and I wouldn't be able to train the way I used to. And it is extremely hard even now. I overheat all the time. I think I play it off very well. Like in my videos, I'm just running and I'm training really hard. But yeah, it is very, very difficult. But the way I see it is the things that happened after, like the sacrifices that I made and staying true to myself and just feeling like it was right within me to do that, all of the success and the blessings that I got afterwards outweighs all of the other difficult things, the challenges that come with it. So, yeah, it's just there's so much more success than challenges. So that's what gets me through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a struggle finding like the right things to wear, and then online you get comments like you're still not wearing the right thing, but I'm trying to run. It is extremely hard, but I truly believe that I'm doing the right thing. And as long as you stay true to yourself, I just think that everything else that comes afterwards is always a success.
I think what's great about you is that, age can be a factor that can be such a preventative thing for so many when they have
Hmm.
ambitions. I hope you don't mind me saying, but you're 26 years of age
I
right
am.
now, and
Yeah.
your ambition is to represent the Middle East as a
Yes.
marathon runner, which is
Yes.
phenomenal.
Thank
In
you.
order for you to get there, all those 1% make such a
Hmm.
difference. Just the
Yes.
physical element, the clothing that you wear, the nutritional side of
Hmm.
things. The more you learn from that, the better you can be as an
Yes.
athlete. So, what you might see as a minor hurdle right now
Hmm.
for you could end up becoming a major asset later on.
Yeah.
How,
God willing.
how have you found this journey so far since you got into running?
I can't picture my life without running. It's been amazing. The thing is, I get questions all the time, like every single day. People say, like, how do you stay motivated and how do you run every day? But what people don't understand is like fitness itself was instilled in me from such a young age. Like my mom would wake up at 5 a.m. and she'd be running the stairs, and she'd get me to run the stairs and do sit ups and so on. So, fitness itself for me is non negotiable. I can't picture my life without movement. I have to move every single day. But running just randomly appeared in my life. I think I told you that I did my first marathon in 2022, and I had 3 weeks to train, and my mom was freaking out. She was like, I'm not ready, because my mom signed up with me. And she was like, we're not going to be able to do this. I might not be able to finish. I was sat on the sofa. I was like, oh, it's going to be a piece of cake. Like, it's going to be so easy. Little did I know, I was dying the whole time. The whole entire race, I was literally dying. And I remember videoing myself and I was like, I'm not going to be able to finish this. I'm never doing this ever again. But the second I crossed that finish line, I was like, I have to do this again. I became obsessed. And there's one thing that my mom always says to me now, like every single time I do a marathon, she's like, bring it home, to bring the medal home. But because she rescued us from the situation. I don't know if you want me to share that now,
No,
but
yeah, I mean, yeah, to give, I mean, please, actually, do you know what? I think it really should come from you, but there is such a deeper meaning, I guess, to that saying, and
yeah,
it comes from things that have happened in the past.
if I get emotional, don't laugh at me.
Listen, this is a safe space.
Uh,
We have individuals from different walks of life who have been through
yeah,
so much. This is what I mean about the intimacy of these conversations, is that
yeah,
for you to have the courage to speak openly, to myself and to anybody that's listening to this episode is an incredibly powerful thing. So
yeah.
you should be proud of that.
Thank you. So I'll take you back. I am originally from the Cayman Islands, but we moved to Saudi Arabia in 2000, and life there was beautiful. I loved it. We had such a beautiful childhood, until my parents divorced. Everything changed then, and they had a very, very nasty divorce. So, because we lived in Saudi, my father was allowed to take us out of the country without my mom, and she was forced to fly back to the Cayman Islands. And he then flew us to Jordan in 2009. So, I was about 11, and life went from so beautiful in Saudi to just horrible in Jordan. Um, we weren't fed very often, and we didn't have proper clothing, no heating, and the house in Saudi was like so beautiful, and then the house in Jordan was very run down and moldy and cold. And my father was abusive physically and verbally. So yeah, it was very, very hard. So when I say that phrase that my mom uses, bring it home, she means because my mom basically she couldn't get any help from anyone, and she eventually found us and flew to Jordan, and she got us out in January 2011. So that's the main thing. That's why she says, bring it home. She means like bring the medal home, and it's basically celebrating my mom rescuing us from that situation.
I mean, I've only met her briefly, but obviously we've spoken on the phone, and she's an incredibly strong
She
woman,
is,
mother
yeah.
of six.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm one of six, and she didn't just rescue one, she rescued six, and yeah.
And how old are you in comparison to your other siblings?
I'm the middle child.
Middle child.
Yeah.
And in terms of I would say your characteristics, would you say you were maybe one of the stronger siblings?
Um, they tell me that I am. Um, I think I take up a lot from my mom. Yeah, I think me and my mom are very similar, so I would say so.
You can, but I feel like you can sense it. I mean, it's very hard for anyone that's listening to this or even watching this,
Yeah.
but just being sat opposite you, you can really, there's an energy, and
Yeah.
it's a very strong energy.
You think so?
I do. I think I
Thank
really
you.
do. And maybe that is just in correlation to what you've been through, but it takes
Yeah.
an awful lot of strength and resilience to go through something like that. And when you are faced with adversity like that and incur that sort of trauma, that can cripple
Mhm.
the best of people in this world.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you are sat here before me now,
Yeah.
sharing, where you are in your journey is just, it's phenomenal.
Thank you.
It
Thank
really
you.
is. And the fact that running of all things was where your energy has been channeled into,
I know.
is just so unbelievably unique.
I know. I never thought I'd be here today, honestly. People ask me like, what's your main goal in life? And I want to be a runner. I want to be an amazing role model, but I always say if I'm just 1% of my mom, I would have made it in life, because I've never met anyone like her, and I wouldn't be here today without her. So yeah, all credit to my mom, really.
When you kind of got into running, was the ambition to always try and take it to that level, or was it more just to invest into something that you enjoyed?
I think one of the big reasons why I fell in love with running is because when I was in that situation in Jordan, we were constantly watched. I mean, like every move. Like when there was no food, we would try to like sneak into the kitchen and like get food, me and my siblings. And it was such a scary feeling because, like I said, he was abusive. So I always felt like someone was watching me. So when I started running, I finally felt free. And it's so, I just honestly don't know how to explain it, but it's just a freeing feeling. And I think that's why I fell in love with it. I'm just in my own little bubble. But when it comes to being a world class runner, I didn't start running and just thought, I just started to realize that, oh, I'm good at this because I only just started 2 years ago and I felt like, I can get better at this if I train really hard. And that's when I, started to think, you know what, I want to be a marathoner, a professional marathoner. So yeah.
And I mean, actually, if you look at the foundation you have right now, your current marathon time, you're running it around what, 3:15,
Yes, yeah.
which is a phenomenal pace. And I mean, for
Thank
someone that's
you.
only been into running for 2 years, that's pretty exceptional. I mean, to
Thank
take
you.
on your first marathon with 3 weeks preparation, that that's
I know.
that's different for sure. And I love the fact, but do you know what? Sometimes go into these things and just be naive enough to just do it,
I was very naive.
and then just be resilient enough to finish it.
Yeah, I
And
was, ugh.
but you need those learnings, right? And I think that's the special thing about the marathon distance. You can approach it in so many different ways.
Mhm.
In all honesty, if most people wanted, and this sounds crazy, but if like a leisurely marathon where it's more about the conversation and the company when running the distance, it's
Mhm.
still going to be tough, but at the same time, it's probably going to be a more enjoyable experience than if you were to run for time. When
Yeah.
you ran it with your mum, was that the ambition to achieve a certain time?
I said to her no, but in my head, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna finish in 3:30."
Wow.
I finished in like 4:47, I think. I was just so naive. But going into it, me and my mom were like, "Oh no, we're just gonna run and like enjoy it." But yeah, in my head, because I'm very competitive, and I'm very hard on myself most times. So in going into it, I was like, oh, you have to get 3:30. Um, but now I do like some marathons, I do like take it seriously. Sometimes I just, do it just to enjoy it. I just feel like now I don't worry so much about the time unless I'm like doing a major and I'm trying to like, put myself out there. But I do think it's also important to just enjoy yourself sometimes and not take yourself so seriously. And I
100%.
struggle with that. I try to be more
Would you
not so
say you're quite a
serious.
serious person?
When it comes to fitness, yes. But I think people get confused because when they start to speak to me, I am nothing like my Instagram. I'm very serious on my Instagram and like always like showing like discipline is important because that's what I choose to share. But I'm so much more than that. I'm quite fun if I say so myself. I think so anyway.
But I think it's so key to have that balance, because if you do take it too seriously, I think that's when it
Yeah,
becomes to your detriment.
I
It's
agree.
so important to have that balance. You can't be going 100 miles an hour
Hmm.
every single time. And actually, by slowing it down, although you feel like you're taking 20 steps back, you're actually really taking multiple steps
I
forwards.
agree.
But that's a learning.
Yeah.
It's like anything in life. Like, how many times do our parents tell us not to do something and we still choose to do it because we're just stubborn? But then we have to learn that lesson.
It's
And I
true.
think it's the same with running, is that ultimately we're going to figure out what we enjoy and what we don't,
Hmm.
throughout that period, various distances, terrains, weather conditions, locations, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
What would you say have kind of been your biggest learning since you took up the sport a couple years ago?
Just like you said, overtraining. I was training a few months ago. I did Berlin last year, and that's when I became so serious. And I was just so focused on like mileage and like j- just just taking it too seriously and not enjoying the journey. I think the most important part of marathon training or any training is the journey, not the destination, not race day. Race day to me now is just another long run. So I think that's what the hardest, trying to find the balance of like training hard but not too hard. And that's when I started to get injured and I wasn't feeling properly. I wasn't sleeping because I was overtraining. So yeah, that's what I struggled with most, but now I've learned to just chill. you know? And again, like you said, you brought up parents. My mom kept telling me, like, you're doing too much. You need to relax. And I didn't listen to her. And yeah,
So
just,
how have you found your community has found you kind of investing in this? Is it something that they're incredibly proud of, or is it
mhm.
something that they're still trying to understand?
I think it's 50-50, you know, especially after wearing the hijab. I think that's what I was so scared of. I didn't know what people would say, what people would think. But to be honest, majority of people are so supportive. Like I have strangers message me every single day, telling me that I'm inspiring them to run while wearing the hijab. And it's just a very few that say like, you're not wearing the right thing, you're not doing the right thing, you should even leave the house. So it's just like, you know, but the majority I feel like are inspired and I want to continue to do that. I want to inspire people with a message that having an active lifestyle can like you can it can help you overcome adversity, and that's what I always want to, you know, share on my platform, that it is so important.
Has it been a real process for you? I mean, as you said there, I guess coping with things. When you feel like there are testing times, has running kind of been that solution for you to try and, I guess, support you through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Running and just fitness in general, you know, it's helped me so much. I think that the way my mom raised us has it's just the best way. Like I always say, like one day when I do have kids, God willing, I'm gonna do the same exact thing, and I hope I'm just as good as her, because now even when I face challenges, I always see the good in the bad. And I think a huge part of that is because I have a clear mind. You know, some people overthink and they turn to other things. But for me, when I'm struggling, I turn to fitness and then I'll go run for like 20 miles. And then after that, I'll be good, you know? So I think it plays a huge part in my life.
This week's episode is sponsored by Runner. Runner is a personalized running coaching app helping runners of all abilities train for any goal. From a first 5K to a marathon, even an ultra marathon. When the time is right for you, your plan can be created within a minute and ready to go. With each plan, Runner provides all the help a runner requires, including strength and conditioning, and you can also reach out to the team at any time via the support tab inside the app. For a 2-week free trial on any personalized running plan, use the code PHOENIX. No matter your goal, Runner is there to help you achieve it.
Do you find, in terms of reaction, do you have maybe more female or male individuals reaching out to you that have been inspired by what you've done?
Definitely females. I do have a few males that reach out to me and say that like what I'm doing is incredible, and but yeah, definitely females. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, to be honest, even like with myself, I'm a male, and yet I would actually say the female community I have are probably more vocal and supportive than the
Yeah.
male community. I don't know
Yeah.
why. Maybe it's, certainly with men, I think a lot of men feel maybe more embarrassed or
Mhm.
unable to express themselves more,
Yeah.
which is something that I'm working for personally within the
Yeah.
sport, is that I want men to be more expressive, to be
Yeah.
able to show their emotion.
Yeah.
And so I guess there's just it's a long-term investment for me to be able to achieve something like
Mhm.
this, where sometimes you don't have to talk directly at the person. It's just by talking, hopefully eventually
Mhm.
they'll hear what you have to say, and
Yeah.
just leaving them that opportunity to invest in it potentially now or tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. Like women are just way more emotional, so it's easier for them. And even me, like sometimes a lot of men inspire me, but I would never think to say that or like message them to, you know, it's just not something I would do. But the second a female like inspires me, I'm like, oh my God, you're amazing, you know? So I just think it's one of those things, you know?
Who would you say have kind of been like your role models or biggest inspirations?
I do love Kipchoge and
Yeah.
Sifan Hassan, and there's so many people, but really and truly, I know I've said it probably 5 times now, but my mom, you know, I think my mom is the most brave, the most courageous person I've ever met. And you just have to meet her and you can speak to her for like 5 minutes and then you'll understand. So yeah, it's my mom definitely. She showed me what true bravery is.
Which is, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's inconceivable to think of what you guys have been through, but as a mother too, when, I've seen the way that my daughter's mother loves her, and to
Yeah.
have, your children taken from you in that fashion is, I mean, what no words can really describe it. You can't relate
Yeah,
to something
no.
like that. So to have the strength to fight and to find you guys is just a phenomenal thing. And I
I
mean, everything each of you do, I mean, I can't speak on your siblings' behalf, but just from the things that you're achieving yourself, I mean, that's the reward for her,
yeah,
is to see the fight
I
and
agree.
and what the repercussion of that in just the best possible way.
I agree.
You know, you are her legacy.
Yeah, exactly. And she always says that. She says, every time I leave the house, she says, remember who your family are. Like, you remember who you are, you're representing me. But yeah, she's amazing. And like I said before, if I'm just 1% of my mom, I would have made it in life.
But if you look at someone like a Kipchoge, for instance, what is it that inspires you about him? Is it just his performances or is it the characteristics of the individual?
Both. I see a lot of talented athletes, but what I love about Kipchoge is how humble he is. It makes a huge difference. He seems so humble, and just he seems like normal, like just me and you. So that's one thing that I love about him. And of course, Safan Hassan, she's amazing. Like, look what she's doing. So, yeah, there's a lot of things, but Kipchoge one day, hopefully, I'll beat him. We'll see.
I mean, you've heard that here. That's now on record. I mean, that would be pretty phenomenal. But who's to say you can't? I mean, that's what's exciting about ambition is that, to be honest with you, no one can say to you you can't
Yeah,
until you try it.
exactly.
And, try it you shall, whenever that may be. In terms of like, I guess your ambitions, you've been very vocal about wanting to perform at the highest level, to
Yeah,
become that elite level athlete. You know, the Middle East is your dream. That's who you would love to represent.
yeah.
What kind of, I guess, hurdles will you be faced with something like that, or is the process relatively easy in comparison?
I think it'll be easier to represent the Middle East than to represent like, Great Britain or I think I told you before that I represented the Cayman Islands, so I could represent them too. But I think with the Middle East, because, there's not a lot of, hijabi athletes, and I want to change that. I want to show people, show women especially, that you can do these things. Just because you're wearing the hijab shouldn't mean that you can't go after your dreams. So that's one of the main reasons I want to be a great role model. And yeah, that's why Middle East, I think it will be difficult because they won't fully understand. Most women are not doing these things while wearing the hijab. So I think it will be difficult at the start, but I think I'll be able to get through to them. I have a very good connection with the Middle East. So
Is there enough support there for you as an athlete in terms of, I guess, the facilities, the backing behind individuals? 'Cause I mean, even representing GB, there are so many
mhm.
athletes that we get onto this podcast where we have these
Yeah.
very intimate conversations, and there's a lack of investment in
hmm
them
Yes. Yeah.
here in the GB, let alone in the Middle East. So
I
I'd be
know.
fascinated to know kind of what potential comparisons or differences there may be there for somebody like yourself.
I honestly don't know, if I'm being honest, because it's difficult because it just depends on who you go to or where. Like Saudi, I think would be very difficult because they're more conservative, but places like Dubai, maybe. So I think it just depends. But right now, I think this like sports now in the Middle East is becoming huge, with football and also like track and field and so on. So I think right now is a great time to approach them. But yeah, I'm just gonna have to shoot my shot and see, what they say and how they react to things.
And how do you prepare for something like that? I mean, are you consistently training weekly? Have you invested in a running coach? What does your recovery look like? I mean, I'd be fascinated to know as well from like a nutritional point of view, like what
Yeah.
differences there might be.
So I am very old school. I just follow people like Kipchoge. Like I don't I've thought about getting a coach so many times, but I love being alone. Like I love training alone. I love just doing my own thing. I know a lot of people are very like into run clubs and those things, and I think all of those things are amazing. But for me personally, I love training alone. So I just, I when I first started, I created my own plans. My mom helped me because she was a professional athlete. So she helped me a lot with nutrition. And I'm very good with nutrition, like with electrolytes and eating enough and all of those things. But now that I'm becoming more serious with running, I I'm thinking about maybe getting a coach, but I don't know. I just really don't know.
You know, I think when it comes to a coach, I mean, there's a lot of reluctance sometimes with that, especially when you're very strong-willed. But I've just found with the coaches I've brought on board, I tried to kind of do things on my own for so long. And actually, as I've got older, just being able to share that load with so many different individuals has been a really powerful thing.
Mhm.
And actually customizing it almost. Like I brought a couple team members on board who were parents.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the recovery element, they could really relate to what I was going through as a
Mhm.
father.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, I guess a lack of sleep or affected sleep at that.
Mhm.
And kind of just like the preparation that needed to go into it. Because, like you said, it's all well and good ramping up the training and pushing yourself and pushing yourself.
Yeah.
But my lifestyle is going to be very different to somebody else's. And
Yes.
actually, having somebody who can empathize and understand that and help then communicate that message to said professional to
Mhm.
tailor it has helped my performance inordinately.
Yeah.
And so, just moving forwards, I would say, like, if you're really looking to aim at the highest level,
Yeah.
you can take yourself so far. And
Mhm.
then I think it's more just looking at that individual at elevating you to achieve
Yeah.
that dream.
I was having a conversation with my mom the other day, and that's where I feel like I'm at that point now where I need the extra push to get me to the next stage, you know? I've done, the other bits, but now I think I'm ready to like just, move forward to a new chapter in my running career. So we'll see. I think it'll just take time to just find the right coach and yeah.
So, I mean, what a lot of people don't know about you is that you have the same health condition that your mother has.
Yes.
It is hereditary, but it doesn't mean that
Yes.
all six siblings have it. Can
Exactly.
you share more information about that?
Yes. So, long story short, we actually moved to the UK from the Cayman Islands. We moved to the UK because my mom had to have surgery, and she has a disease called keratoconus. Basically, it thins the cornea and it causes blurry vision and double vision and many other things. It can also cause like sensitivity and so on. But my mom's was severe at that stage. So she had to have eye transplants. And then what happened
She's
was
had, is it two?
two, yeah. So yeah, she's basically blind. You'd never think it because you've seen her. You'd never think it, but yeah, hers is really, really bad. So that happened, which then forced me to drop out of college, and I was only at the age of 16. And then I had to basically work full time and use my full paycheck to cover household bills. So even after the whole thing that happened in Jordan and getting out, it still felt like life was a struggle when we moved here. Fast forward on to 2018, I was in front of the TV. I fell asleep. I had a nap and I woke up and everything was blurry. And I just thought I just woke up, and I started rubbing and rubbing and rubbing my eyes. And come to find out, I inherited the same disease as my mom. So now I can't see out of this eye. So I just rely on my left eye.
That's phenomenal.
I know. So I have a really bad habit where when I'm doing marathons, especially because, of course, in my videos, I know I'm being recorded and I know exactly where I'm running and I use the same roads. But with marathons, I run like this because I'm constantly
You're
because
having to
I can't
focus on your
yeah,
feet.
because I don't know what's in front of me and like
Wow.
if there's a speed bump or if there's potholes. So I do like get pains in my neck and stuff, but there's no cure for keratoconus. Yeah, there's no cure. So thankfully they found mine early. So right now I'm being monitored for progression. But yeah, there's no cure. You can get contacts, and I'm trying to, but again, it's my mom wears contacts, and she's still, it helps a bit, but yeah. When I found out in 2018, I then had surgery in 2019. I had a corneal cross-linking surgery, so that basically stops it from progressing. So that's why right now I'm being monitored. Sometimes it will continue, and then in great cases, it won't. So right now, they're just, monitoring me. So it can lead to blindness, like my mom. But fingers crossed that doesn't happen. And if it does, I'll still be running.
when you're running these marathons, you know, you did London Marathon, for instance,
Yeah.
it's like a maze
It's
trying to weave
scary.
your way through people. How
Yeah.
do you cope with something like that then if your primary focus is on your feet
It's
rather than what's in
hard.
front?
It's hard. Yeah. And it was even harder when I did it just, last April. Because that was the first time I ever ran with a hijab. So it was like overheating. I have to wear glasses because with keratoconus, you have to be very careful, like anything going into your eyes. I was wearing glasses. I couldn't see. The weather was bad. So it's not just running that I have to think about. There's so many other things that's going on in my head. So yeah, it is a struggle, but I just move on.
I had a very interesting conversation with a couple friends of mine in a car about how we respond to adversity.
Hmm.
And one of them was really triggered where I made a comment saying that, you know, sometimes in life, individuals become a victim to their
I
circumstance. And he
agree.
really didn't like that. And the point I think I was trying to make there is that facing things in life is inevitable,
Hmm.
but how we wish to respond to those moments,
Hmm.
that's where we have the control
Yeah.
and the power of that. And
Yeah.
we can, determine not how much it affects us, but how long we wish to stay within that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what's happened has happened. We can't change that. But
Hmm.
what we can try and control is how we dictate the future.
Exactly. I agree.
And I think if you look at what you're doing right now, if you look at what I'm trying to achieve with my own personal adversities, you know, it doesn't make it any less easier or less
Hmm.
painful. The trauma's still within, but I think it's just trying to convert it into something that
Hmm.
can put a smile on your face and smile on the faces around
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I agree. And when the thing that you mentioned about victim, there's this thing that like, there's a mindset that we always use inside the house. Is again, credit to my mom. She always says this thing where you're either a victim or a warrior. And I get why people might get upset about it, but with my mindset, I truly believe in that because it's true. You either choose to be a victim or a warrior. And I always choose to be a warrior because, I mean, what else are you going to do? Sit there and complain? Like, you know, everyone, everyone, if they have like like I always say, like discipline is the strongest form of self love. And once you decide that you're going to make a change, then there's nothing that's impossible. And that's what I try to tell myself every single day. Like, I don't wake up and I'm not like a robot, like, oh, I'm so motivated. I'm human. And people on my platforms, they always think that like I'm just like always motivated and always, but no, but I choose to have a warrior mindset. And that's what gets me through these challenges.
I was going to say, because I think that's where the misinterpretation could come from, right? Where
Yeah.
people look at you and feel like a David Goggins, for instance, who just
Yeah.
wakes up and is constantly motivated. If anything, do you think it's because of what you've been through in life, where you have to almost go above and beyond
Yes.
the norm
Yeah.
or the average in order to continue to be motivated? Because I feel
100%.
like with what you've been through, it'd be so easy to go down that slippery slope.
Yeah, exactly. I think the easy option, I would, just be lazy, not do anything. And then people are like, well, what are you doing with your life? Well, I've been through this and this and that. But that's the message that I always want to put out there. Like, if as long as you have discipline, integrity, determination, you can overcome adversity. Anything is possible once you set your mind to it. And that's the mindset that I live by every single day.
But I think it's the narrative you're creating around yourself is that
Yeah,
you are Maliha.
you said it right.
Yeah, yes, I did. Who your narrative is you're the runner.
Yeah,
And everything that you've been through, it's not a case of it's secondary, but
yeah.
you are a runner and this is my life.
Yes,
Rather
exactly.
than this is my life, oh, and I run.
Exactly.
For me, what I try to achieve with every challenge is that people will be impressed or inspired by the things that I've done.
Hmm.
They see Joshua Patterson, the runner, and then the narrative of
Yeah,
struggles with mental health come
yeah.
into it. Because it's almost like that's the surprise. Like,
Hmm.
wow, I didn't know that about him.
Yeah.
He still managed to achieve X, Y, and Z,
Hmm.
even though he struggled with that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I agree.
And I feel like
100%.
for me, I don't know. I feel like people just will connect more with that
Yeah,
narrative.
I agree. Like every single thing that, like I shared with you, I've had so many things happen to me, but every single thing that could have broke me built me. And that's why I always try to share I mean, to be honest, I've never shared this much before, but I hope that sharing this will inspire others to just to go above and beyond because tomorrow is never promised. So we've got to make every day count.
I'd love to know what is it about today, for instance, like, this is as I said, a very personal story. It's your life. Why now do you feel comfortable to share that message? I guess when there may have been other individuals out there that you could have had this conversation with. Is it just a case of just
Um,
right time or right person?
right time and right person. I've had a lot of people reach out, especially with like podcasts and stuff. They were like inviting me on, but I just never felt like it was the right person, if I'm being honest. But I've been following you for a while, and I just felt like you would get me. I wanted to share this sensitive information with the right person. So I'm honored to be on your podcast. So thank you.
How are you finding it?
Yeah, it was not bad.
It's just, it's interesting, isn't it? How you can express so much about yourself to ultimately a complete stranger.
Yeah,
But just, I guess it's creating that environment where it's a safe space.
yeah. I thought I'd be crying. I'm glad I held back the tears because I don't want to mess up my makeup. But yeah, I feel very comfortable sharing this with you. So, and again, I just hope that it makes a difference and it inspires people. So,
Do you feel like there's barriers to you? Because I feel like you are an incredibly expressive person, but there have been like several occasions when we're talking where, I know you joke about the makeup, but it's almost that fear of, um, I don't know, just like when you want to be emotional, there's a concern of what, I may think of you. And yet for
yeah.
me, showing emotion is just such a powerful thing.
I just think growing up in a household with such a strong mother figure, um, it's just me, I always try to be a strong person. It's not always a good thing. I think it's important to show emotion. And I can be emotional at times, but I think I don't know, I can also be very shy. I don't know you very well. So I don't know. It's just and with my mom, she's always teaching us to be very strong. So I just try to like show that side of me. But you are right. I do have a lot of barriers and it takes a while for people to break them down.
So it's interesting, isn't it, when you think like your career right now is the primary focus is social media, where it's such an expressive
Yeah.
platform, right? And I guess it's just having that comfort with ultimately complete strangers to kind
Yeah.
of try and be yourself as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm I only show like 1% of myself if I'm being honest. There's so much more to me. And I think they will see that because right now what they see is just so little. It's just me running and sharing here and there, but that's it. But I don't even think like they ask me all the time, like, what does your voice sound like? They don't even know. And because I wear like huge glasses all the time, they're like, what does your face look like? But yeah, I just feel like I was so focused on just showing such little part of me. But now I think I'm ready to, go a bit further and show more of me. So.
Do you think that can be achieved as well with the distances that you run? I mean, I know your biggest passion is obviously the marathon distance, but have you contemplated running distances at a further distance?
Yeah, so I actually have an event coming up just under 4 weeks. I was invited out to Turkey to do an ultra. Have you done an ultra before?
I've done a few.
Because
They'll
I know
they'll
you
they'll
ran
be
marathons every city. Was it every city of the UK? I think you did
yeah.
last
So I,
year.
d- I did a marathon in all 76 cities in the
Yeah.
UK. I ran a marathon in the 4 countries of the UK within 24 hours.
Wow.
And the two challenges that kind of, I think really started things off majorly within running was around my patio during lockdown. So
Right.
my patio it's around 14 feet.
Okay.
And I basically ran 6 marathons in 5 days around it. And then I ran 24 hours around it and ran 105 miles. So that was my first 170K ultra.
That's crazy. I
Yeah.
thought I was crazy.
Oh,
You're definitely psychotic or
there's
something.
levels to me that even I'm trying
Oh
to
my God,
comprehend.
that's crazy.
Power of ultra running is that a lot of people that invest in it, trauma seems to be like
Yeah.
the major fuel behind it.
Hmm.
And just the conversations you have with complete strangers just makes it one of the most powerful and unique experiences. Is
Yeah.
that, so many individuals feel uncomfortable to express themselves, but when you are suffering in some of the worst conditions and you're essentially running next to a complete stranger, it's so interesting how every barrier is just completely broken away and you can just have the most intimate conversation with someone.
Yeah.
And after that 20, 30, 40K, potentially break off and then not speak to them again.
Really? Well, we'll see because that's what I'm doing in 4 weeks' time. In Turkey, I'll be doing an ultra for the first time. Didn't train for it. It was such a last minute thing. They asked me, I said, okay, I'll go out. But I'm scared. I'm really scared. But I'm not gonna, go crazy. I'm gonna enjoy it. Even if I have to walk, I'll walk it. Like I don't care, because it's just a whole new ball game for me. I've never ran that distance
What
before.
distance is it?
It's between 119 kilometers and 63.
Okay.
I don't know which one to go. Me, like the competitive side of me, is saying to go for 119. My mom said absolutely not. So I don't know. I haven't decided. What's your advice?
So my advice to you, and this would not devalue you or the experience whatsoever, would be to go for the smaller distance.
Yeah.
Not because I don't believe you could achieve the 100K plus
Yeah.
distance. I really, truly believe you could. I just think there's a process to this. And it's not a case of, because I often get this all the time, right? Where
Mhm.
people go, if I come up with an idea of a challenge I want to do, they'll go, oh, well, you're rushing things. It should take, an individual 4 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. So just go for it and then learn from that
Yeah.
experience. Because you've never done an ultra before, and because
Mhm.
you physically have kind of primed yourself for that marathon distance, I think go into it and have more of like an eye-opening experience
Yeah.
where you can familiarize yourself with like that longer distance,
Mhm.
but not to the point where it's to your detriment.
Yeah, I
Because I
agree.
think your focus really from this would be to achieve a goal but not injure yourself,
Yes.
because you've got
Yeah.
so much more to focus on
Yeah.
over the next year and the year after that. And I just think you're at a higher, the risk factor doing that sort of distance is substantial. I mean, I've got friends who are ultra runners and they would even potentially be injured
Mhm.
from something like that, depending on what the terrain is like or the conditions. Because the thing is with ultras as well, is that they're so unpredictable.
Mhm.
You've got to take in not just the distance, but the elevation that you might be running,
Yeah.
what the terrain is going to be like. If it's really rocky and you're not wearing
Oh God.
suitable shoes or prepared for something like that, you can
Yeah.
roll your ankle so easily. Things like the temperature or the
Yeah.
climate are massive factors. Now,
Yeah.
if you look at what you would ordinarily wear for running right now, one of the things that we've spoken about is how hot you're getting.
Yes.
Now, if you're wearing that and hypothetically in Turkey, it's 35 to 40 degrees and
Yeah.
almost like
It will
90%
be very hot.
humidity, you're
Yeah.
going to be really hot.
Mhm.
So it's not just the running element, I guess, that you can learn from that, but also what you're wearing. How can you tailor it
Mm.
so you can still remain, passionate about your belief and what you
Mhm.
wish to wear, but at the same time, it not cost you,
Yeah.
I guess, the success of the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Things like the color factor. I mean, are you able to be versatile with your colors? Are you able to wear white, or do you just, because mostly I've seen with what you wear is the primary colors black.
No, I actually
You're
wear
quite
like
versatile, yeah.
yeah, I do, yeah.
But I guess with the hijab, are you able to wear white?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
you
but
can
well,
wear white,
just
yeah.
because I made the biggest mistake when I went to Sri Lanka. It was 39 degrees and 100% humidity, and I wore all black.
Oh
I
my
went into it with the mindset of vanity, which was I look great in this outfit, and it was scorching.
Yeah.
And I cooked. So for me, for future reference, if anyone's listening and you want to go into those ultras and there's a chance of a rather hot climate, the lighter the color, the better.
Yeah, I agree. I actually plan to wear white in Turkey. I said to mom, I'm just going to wear all white because, again, I was thinking of the heat. I am worried about it, but that's why I'm going into it with a mindset of just enjoying it. I'm not going to race it and I'm not going to overthink it. If I have to walk, I have to walk. It is what it is. So I'm
And
excited.
like the marathon, I love the fact that you're just going into this with no training or
I
prep.
know.
Just, you know what, this is a great experience and we're just going to go for it.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm always that's my problem. I just go into things and just, don't think twice sometimes. But I think it's gonna be an amazing experience. So
Is
I'm
there
excited.
is there any area, I guess, if you look around the globe, is there anywhere in particular that you would love to focus your attentions on in terms of like maybe your races, or challenges that you set yourself? I guess the Middle East is something that you feel so deeply passionate about. Is there
Mhm.
is there any way that you could reach out to potential tourist boards or governments there and actually start to maybe do, I guess, more races in that area?
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to start reaching out to the Middle East. And basically, even if it means, like, I always said to everyone, really, especially to my family, that the UK doesn't feel like home for me. So even if it means that I move there or live here and there, but yeah, the Middle East always felt like home. They will always have my heart. So I would like to do more races over there. But when it comes to training, I don't see myself training in the Middle East because, it's so hot. So that's why I always say, like, maybe 50 here, 50 there. But yeah, that's what I would like to do.
That's one of the assets that you'll have there if you do train there, is actually preparing yourself physically in those warmer
Yeah.
climates. That's the advantage that you will have. And, when you
Yeah.
look at the likes of the Kipchogis, that's the asset that they have. When
I
they're born
know.
into that climate, you're kind of, I wouldn't say you're necessarily at disadvantage by being born in the UK.
Mhm.
But when you are faced with those sorts of terrains and climates, that does definitely pose a challenge. I mean, there's only so
Yeah.
much heat preparation you can do really here, and that really consists of just saunas, in all honesty,
Yeah.
because the climate here is relatively cold throughout. So
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. And it just comes down to research. I mean, even things like from a nutritional point of view, it's going to be a very different approach for you doing that ultra than it would be doing the marathon. So
Yeah.
just learnings from that, how often you're going to need to top up, because just consuming, if you do, sort of energy gels for 50, 60K,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
It is. But I'm so used to it. Honestly, I'm just gels here and there. Just I don't even think twice. Um, I don't know if I'm prepared for it. Well, I'm not. Physically, I'm always on top of my fitness. I never stopped running since London. So I'm always running. I'm always working out every single day, strength training and so on. But like you said, an ultra is a whole different ballgame. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to go into it, positive mind, get through it.
I think if you look at what you've been through in your lifetime, there is absolutely nothing in this world that will even remotely come close to that.
No.
So when times get tough and you feel like you can't, I think as much as you probably don't always want to look to the past, sometimes with reflection, you can look
Yeah.
at and know what you've achieved and
100%.
what you've come from.
Yeah.
You've done it once, you've done it twice, you will do it 10 times more.
Exactly. I agree. I couldn't agree with that more. I love that. I actually love that.
Now, for anyone that's listening, certain individuals will be really impacted by this conversation and potentially are going to be going through something themselves.
Yeah.
They will take great strength and inspiration from what you've said today. Is there anything that you would like to say directly to them?
I would like to say, no matter what you're going through, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Like I said before, every single thing that I've gone through could have broke me, but instead it built me. And just having that mindset, trying to see the good in every bad situation, you will eventually become a positive person if you focus on the positive. And, really and truly, as I think the most important thing is focus on yourself until the focus is on you. And that's what I say to myself every single day. Just focus on yourself until the focus is on you. Everything else will fall into place. But taking care of yourself, your body's a temple, that's the most important thing. That's what's going to get you through adversity.
You star. I couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with me. It honestly means the absolute world, and you articulate yourself so well. And
Thank you.
what's really exciting now is for those that weren't familiar with you, now get to
Mhm.
invest in your journey. And I really do hope from the bottom of my heart that you fulfill your dreams, and actually to hear it from you today and hopefully be able to see that in the future
Mhm.
just makes it that extra bit special.
I'm sure we'll see each other again.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Amazing.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, you fatted biscuit, all I ask of you in return is that you push that subscribe button and leave a review. Unless it's a bad one, you can keep that, you sausage. Your support, though, makes such a difference to this podcast and enables it to grow and connect with even more people around the world.